All right, we got a Cat 330. Got a cat thumb on it, and the cylinder that goes to the thumb has got a broken eye. This piece right here, see, it sheared it right off. We're going to take this eye off and get it prepped up. We're going to pretty much remove all this material here, and we're going to bevel this rod and get it welded back on. So we're going to try to do a good job of showing y'all the process of this. All right, we got the cylinder eye out of the thumb, and show y'all what's going on here. Looks like it had probably been cracked before, and some where the paint had been ground off, and looks like a MIG weld that had been run around it. It broke right on top of the toe of the weld, which is pretty typical. But what you can see, there was a grub screw embedded in there, and we're going to try to use that to align everything back up. This hole goes on into the eye just a little bit, and in the bottom of that rod there in the end, there's also another threaded port. We've probably got about one thread left right there. We're probably going to try to catch it when we go to align this thing back up, but if not, having a center hole here and a center hole in the end of the rod would definitely still help getting it lined up. And we've got some other stuff that we can make sure that this rod, or this eye here, is going to be 90 degrees to that rod. That's the main thing we've got to keep straight. So right now we're going to get the arc gouger. Caden's going to pretty much just gouge off all this material. The cylinder rod is going to get about a 1/2 inch shorter once we're done, but it's not going to be a huge deal. All right, we ended up setting up the sawhorse. We're getting a lot of vibrations off the vise from the welder shaking. It's hard to gouge off the back of the truck. All right, we got it, or Caden got it gouged off, did a good job there. Stayed right above it, didn't get into it much, and the center there come out. So we saved that grub screw, and it looks like we'll be able to use that hole no problem to get it lined back up. We're gonna do some prepping on that, and then we will come over here and put a bevel on this. And you can see that from the factory that this is not a fully penetrated joint. It doesn't go all the way to a point. I know that's a big topic that some people have. You can kind of see how much weld this had, and by the looks of it, that weld did its job, because the cylinder rod broke right at the toe of that weld. So the weld had plenty of strength. The failure wasn't in the weld, it was in the heat affected zone, like is typical for most things that fail. It's the heat affected zone that normally breaks, not the actual weld. So the next part, we'll do some grinding. I'll get over here. I might just grind this by hand, put the old Cubitron on it. Should make quick work of that, instead of having to put the little heat as possible in that cylinder rod. We like I said, we got the sawhorse out because of the vibrations that the welder and the air compressor were causing combined, and blocking the sun out here today with our rocket canopy. Doing a pretty good job. All right, we got it prepped, and we don't have quite any threads in that hole right there, so we've got a tap and drill. We're gonna go ahead and drill that on up a little bit so we can put a couple of threads on it with a tap. That way we can get that grub screw started and go ahead and use this to align it a little bit. So that's what the next step is. We're gonna move our tent over now that we're done here, and probably try to cast some shade in that area. The rest of the job will be done over there on the cylinder. All right, so we got this eye tacked off, and y'all should have been able to see us getting that fit up. We were able to use the grub screw. It didn't pull the eye into the cylinder rod square, so we had to adjust it a little bit. I was banking off these surfaces being true, but when we put the square on one side, this was perfectly square, and when we put it on this side and measured up with the square, we had just a little bit of daylight down here. So instead of going off of one side, I had this thing made up, just a piece of angle iron, and we were able to register it off the cylinder rod, come down with a square like that, and square that base plate there off perfectly with a cylinder rod. And then we were able to take our precision level that we have modified with a spring on one side. We were able to set it on the base plate and adjust the set knobs there to pull it in to perfectly level. But once we had it perfectly level, then we were able to take that and register it off the pin that's inside of the eye and adjust it until we get it perfectly level. It was kind of one of the things you got to beat on it, then go back and reset, because every time you hit it, it moves. So you got to reset the level on the base plate and then check it and go back and forth till you get it pretty close. Now we've got it. After we tacked it last, it was dead nuts, but you know, it's going to keep dancing around a little bit while we're welding this thing. But this is the best we can do out here in the field, and I feel like it's going to be plenty good enough. I know a lot of people would have just put the eye in place, pinned it up, ran the rod in with the machine, butted it up, and welded it, and that's definitely a way to do it. But once it pulls that way, nobody knows that it's pulling, and what it does is puts pressure on that pin, and you know, whoever takes it back out is going to fight it, or the rod's going to break again, or you're going to eat the bushings out because you got tension somewhere. When we put this thing together, we will know for sure if it's in alignment, because the pin's either going to slide right in or it's going to be out. And if we get it this close with that precision level, if we've got it pretty close now, there's really no way, unless we welded this thing out all to one side, that we would draw it out bad enough. So we're going to do our best to keep it straight. Here in a minute, we're going to put it together and we'll see if it goes in. All right, we've got a few layers in it with some 7018, and I'm gonna bump up the rod size to 532s, and we'll get this thing finished out. Probably just a couple more, maybe one more layer and a final layer up, and we'll be done. have that D-wall with the hard disc out?
Yeah.
All right, we got it finished, welded up. Come out pretty good. That's a 532 stick rod, 7018. I did the first couple passes with 1/8, and then I like the 532s simply because I can get around it in one rod without a restart by walking around it. And just by laying the rod on there and kind of just dragging it around. It's a good technique. Used to use it a lot, welding socket welds. Next step, we're gonna curl this bucket and thumb in and extend the cylinder rod down into location and see if it'll go back together. All right, we got the pin in. It went pretty good, getting everything lined back up. Once we got everything lined up, the pin just tapped right in. Got Caden's doing a little grease on it right now, filling it back full of grease, and this thing will be good to go. One thing I want to point out right here is how they've got, this is the locking mechanism for the pin when they're running the thumb. I see a lot of people mess this up and it causes a lot of expensive damage. They'll just take this and lock it to the thumb there, and what that does, it lets your pin rotate in your quick attach, and it will cause the pin to wear out and break, and it'll definitely wear out your quick attach. So that's how it should be done, in my opinion. This one's wrapped up, get everything cleaned back up, and I think it's before lunch, so we'll be able to go find something else to do today. It's a nice day, nice and windy. Good thing we didn't have to weld with any dual shield or anything like that today. We're thankful for the 7018 stick electrodes. Hope y'all enjoyed this one. Maybe y'all get something from it. It's a quick, nice little repair for us. We'll see y'all on the next one.